Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
All right, now we start with the fourth subsection, personas and scenarios. Until now, we researched our users, we framed questions, we asked them questions, we went out and observed them, and we came back and we put all our stories out on the table, basically the stories of users' lives in terms of what problems they face, what their contexts are, what their situations are, what their expectations are, what their notions are. You saw what we learned in mental models. What's in their head about the product or the service in question. So we came back with all their stories and then we formed themes. So we'll now learn two new tools called personas and scenarios. They're extremely powerful tools. They're powerful not just for our own clarity, because in the act of creating personas, which we will define in a bit what they are, but in the act of creating them, it not just clarifies thought for ourselves, what is the direction that this design should be taking. Because remember, that is the whole point of this exercise. We are trying to uncover the mental models and understand and realize what should we be designing before we jump into design. So personas and scenarios are two of those tools. Let's first look at personas. So when we go out and we interview a lot of people, let's say each of you in a team of 5 does 5 people or 6 people, you come back with 25-30 interviews. So that's a lot of information. Now, in order to design so that something that is relevant to the product in question or the service in question, we cannot, as we spoke earlier as well, we cannot create a design for ourselves. That is just not going to cut it, right? So you cannot create a design for yourself. You are not the user. Why? Why is that? Again, if you create a design for yourself, you're going to be too specific because your worldview is very limited. You need to get a bigger worldview, you need to get a richer worldview, you need to get a better worldview. So if you design for yourself, it is too specific. If you design for everyone, it is too generic. It doesn't really give us a strong indicator for meaningful design decisions. You remember we spoke about the marketing approach and the kind of conclusions they draw, right? So many percentage of the population is middle class, or so much percentage of the population is, low tech, or whatever it is. It does not give us any meaningful, deeper insights into how should we design. The whole purpose and the need that we have as designers, we need to get a sense of direction. What do we need to design? Remember, this is about being people-centric, so that, always keep in sight the end goal, so that at the end we are going to arrive at a design about which we feel a lot more confident that people can use it, are comfortable with it, it is what they expected, what they needed, and what they also like. Right? So in order to have all of those, we need specifics. We are designing here. We are not just creating a report. We are not creating a research report, right? So designing for everyone, not only is it impossible, it is just doesn't give you any insights or inputs on meaningful design decisions as far as how do I design now. So a persona helps to do precisely that. So a persona is not a specific individual from a targeted group, okay? It's not a person. A persona is a representative of a group of people, okay? So a persona encompasses the most important and relevant features relevant to the context we're talking about, not, what they do in the rest of their lives. Relevant to the walking stick, relevant to, a app we may be creating, whatever it is. So a persona encompasses the most important and relevant features that are common to the group and relevant to this design. Common to the group. So all of the people in that group have this common approach to the design that we're creating, this common attitude, common notion, common thoughts about this design that we would be creating. So that is what a persona is. So let's look a little bit more, right? Remember, personas are not real people. You will represent them as real people. At the end, they're going to feel to you, and they need to feel to you and the entire team that they are real characters, right? So they are fictional characters drawn from user research. So when you do user research, you find certain attitudes towards your product repeating, right? There's a certain kind of group of people among the people you've researched that fall into a particular category of behavior towards your service. So persona is behavior based, right? So that would be one of your types, your user types for whom you would create a persona. So they are drawn from user research who serve as example cases during user experience development. So those personas become examples for you. So let's look at an example over here. This was for a service that was being designed for people who want to start their own business, right? It was going to provide information to people who want to start their own business. Now here is Janet. She is about 42 years old and she is a manager in some kind of an accounting firm, and she has a lot of responsibilities, but she is tired of working for someone else. She wants to start out on her own. She doesn't have time, she's very busy, but she needs information on how can she start a new business, okay? So remember, that is Janet's context, that is her profile. And what is she saying over here? She says, I don't have time to sort through a lot of information. I need quick answers. So that is the key statement, top of mind thought that Janet has, saying, I don't have a lot of time to sort through a lot of information. I need quick answers. Okay, so if you are designing this service, you need to be cognizant of this fact. Now, here's another person, Frank. Frank is a bus driver and he has this hobby of woodworking. He is around 35 years old, and he has been thinking that, and his friends have also been telling him, that could I convert this hobby into a business, into a real business? So, perhaps something that he enjoys a lot more, and he could do it on the side along with his main profession. So what is Frank saying? He's saying, this stuff is all new to me. I want a site that will explain everything. So he wants explanation, and his situation, remember, he is not in a hurry. He's not as pressed for time as Janet is. So you can see their approaches are different, right? Janet and Frank. Now, Janet is not a person, but she's representative of a whole bunch of people who have a need, who want the service to do this for them, that quickly give them answers and quickly help them in how they can, learn about how to start a new service and get off the ground quickly. Frank, on the other hand, perhaps needs something that would be explained in detail to him, and he has the time to go through it. So again, Frank is not a person, but he is representative of a group of people who are of this particular mindset, right? But we have given them a name, we have put a picture, we have written their top of mind thought, as you can see. So these are very important components of a persona. And what does that do for you? Even though Janet is, it's not a real person, she has become a real person for us. In the process, as I described to you her context, as I described Frank's context to you, you not only understood that this is a person, you can connect with that person, as a user of your service, but you also are able to understand the difference between their requirements. Okay? So this is what a persona is, and remember again, they are fictional characters. So I'm going to share with you a couple of templates, and a lot of templates exist to help make personas. Here's a very simple one. Now, what might the persona have? First of all, the picture and the name, as you saw with Janet and Frank. A picture of the person and the name of the person. What does the persona look like? What is its name? Okay? And these are very important because we need to feel like they are real people, and all of us in the team need to have a common understanding of who this person is. So you choose a picture and a name that are representative, and then allow you to develop sympathy for the persona. You start empathizing with this person. Then what are some of the details? What are the persona's relevant characteristics and behaviors? And some of these are written over here, their age, etc., their situation, and I will explain these to you in successive personas. Then consider demographics, job, lifestyle, spare time activities, attitudes, and common tasks, for instance. So you're just giving a little bit of background information about this person. The minute I told you Janet is 42, Frank is 35, you kind of started connecting certain dots in your head, right? So those are the kind of details you would put in. Goal, very important. This goal is what is the most important thing for us, because this is what we use in order to create our design, right? Why would the persona want to buy or use the product? Why would they actually pay to use this product? What problems should the product solve? What benefits does the persona want to achieve? If there are multiple problems or benefits, identify the main one and put it at the top. Okay, so what are the goals? What are the attitudes? What are the behaviors related to this particular service, right? So a persona is again a character sketch of a user that represents a typical group. And now let's look at an example, right? Remember, we talked about a picture and a name. So you have a picture here, and his name is Peter, right? Now we're trying to give some details about the person. Peter works as product manager for a mid-sized company. He's 35 years old. He holds a marketing degree. He's got experience working as a product owner on software products with agile teams. He has had some Scrum training. Now, when I've described all this to you, you have immediately formed a little bit of a picture in your head. What is the third thing? We now need to define their goals, right? He has managed mature products successfully. He now faces the challenge of creating a brand new product. So that is the challenge that he's facing, and that is the challenge that is your challenge, because you need to, through the tool that you're designing, make it easier for him to create this brand new product much more easily. He wants to leverage his agile knowledge, but he needs advice on creating innovative products using agile techniques. So this is what he needs, and this is what is his challenge. Okay? So as you can see, once I've described this, even though this is one of the most simplest of persona templates, even with this description, you have gotten a pretty good idea of who this person is for whom you're designing. And remember again, it is a fictitious summary of real users. Okay? It's a fictitious summary. But these things are all real. Things that you have been out in the field, been in interviews, and been in observations and come back with. Okay? This is another persona template, And this has a little more, detail, a little more breadth to it. So first of all is the persona info, then a day in the life narrative. As we did in the past section, you know now what a day in the life narrative is like, okay? Then a sketch of the person or a picture of the person. The end goals, explicit and tacit. Explicit goals are goals that they would have expressed to you. Tacit are goals that based on your research, you have come back with things that you think are there, perhaps unexpressed need, perhaps they're latent needs, okay? And expected behavior while using the service. So if you think, go back towards Janet and Frank, if you put in front of Janet something that needs, has a lot of details and lot of, needs a lot of effort and time, perhaps it's definitely not going to work for her, right? Whereas Frank probably needs some detail. Okay, so this is another persona template, and again it's a fictional character and it's a subset of our target market. The target population that we're looking to design, this is one person, one persona out of that. There may be 3 or 4 or 5, right? Generally we try to not go beyond that. Here's another template. And there are many types of templates, as I told you. You would, as you get more and more comfortable with personas, you can get into more detailed templates, more sophisticated information, right? So this has the full name, then the age, the occupation, status, location, the tier, the frequency of use, what kind of user are we looking at, archetype, that is what is their character model, okay? Then certain traits that you might put, their motivations, so the fears, growth and social, okay? What are their social kind of notions from a social perspective, growth aspirations, etc. Goals, what are the goals that this person has, okay? Because you as a designer, as an engineer, as anyone building the product, need to be able to understand the user's goals, because that is what you need to satisfy through your design. Not just satisfy, but excel in. Frustrations, the pain points, right? Important for you to understand what are the user's pain points. Today, what are they struggling with? Okay? And then this could be a little bit about the user journey that we also spoke about. And then a little bit about the personality, extrovert, introvert, sensing, intuition, thinking, feeling, judging, perceiving. So little more details that can help you shed more light. And then their technology orientation and what are their favorite brands. So the technology orientation, particularly if it's a technology based product, it's very important to know how tech savvy are they, how not tech savvy are they. And the brands give you an idea of what kind of expectations. If Apple is one of their favorite brands, then you know they have an expectation of quality. Okay. Now let's look at a persona example that is fairly detailed. Okay. So this is a person, Brian. It gives details of where he lives, what he does, etc. Now, what type is he? He is a movie collector, very interested in movies. And this is one of the most important things you need to create when you create a persona. If this person were to say the top of mind thought that's in their head, what would that be? So he's saying, I love all my movies and all the extra content makes them even better. So it's not just movies, he's really into all the other stuff, maybe the songs, maybe some merchandise, all of those things. So he's a quality seeker, he's a gadget geek, right? So there's a lot of details about him. And for example, over here it says, when Brian finds a movie he loves, he doesn't want to just own it. He wants to consume everything about it. So he lives kind of in the world of movies, right? It's very powerful for him. Bonus content is a large part of his buying decision. There you go. That is a very key thing that Brian would be looking for, that is important for you to know as a designer when you're working in this domain. And then his device preferences, smartphone, laptop, tablet, etc., right? And then what are his prioritized key features? Perhaps you've asked him, if you had the ability to have a Disney catalog, my collections, family access, movies, etc., modes. So what would they be? And this is how he's prioritized it. Again, very important insights for you as a designer to know. And what is his top goal? A connected experience that allows interaction with content, including exclusive second screen features, extras related to movie and social media. So I'm sure through this whole description, you have very nicely built a picture inside your head about who this person is. So this is a project that we had worked on, and this was about electronic waste. People have lots and lots of electronic waste today. What do they do with it, and how can this whole area be addressed to come up with a efficient and strong service that allows people to recycle their electronic waste. Okay, so from the research findings, I just want to show you in this slide how from the research finding we derived personas, right? So there are two types of consumers from the research findings. We find the aware guy who's aware about e-waste, and the not aware guy. Now what is the aware guy saying? He's saying, I want to recycle my old phone. All right? The not aware guy is saying, e-waste, what's that? Okay? So these are the two, and from this we have derived two kinds of two personas. One is called generous Rahul. Okay? Remember, this term is used to qualify the name and give you an idea of what it's about, right? So what is he saying? There's a lot of stuff lying at home. No, it's not waste. So then this is describing to you what he does. He buys new products when something cooler comes in. He's bothered by the space occupied by all the old products, but he would throw it in the bin, but he would love to just give it away to someone. He would love to know if there's someone who needs it. And the other person is stingy Sapna, right? And again, this word is qualifying her, and it is a characteristic of the kind of user that we're faced with, right? So what is she saying? I'm very emotionally attached to my things, and I will not give them away at any cost. So she stores or her old phones, maybe her old computers, whatever it is, she holds on to them. So she doesn't, doesn't want to get rid of them, and perhaps doesn't even realize why it's important to do that. Okay. All right. Let's look at some more personas. Here is an example that was for a project where we were looking to design a service, a common portal kind of thing for a huge housing society that would allow its residents to communicate and connect with each other much better. Okay. So this is the first persona. And how is it described? She is called socially active. So then there's a name, there's a photograph with it, and then there's the details and this little description about her. Pratibha is a resident of Platinum City for the past 5 years, that's the name of the society, and actively attends and participates in the activities of the society. She has a large circle of friends in the society. They help each other in organizing various festivals and cultural events in the society. She wants to engage as many residents as possible in these activities, as this fosters a better living environment in the society. So you can see she is someone who is socially active. This is describing the person, the kind of behavior. Okay. Now let's look at the next persona. This is Rajesh Sharma, who's a doctor, and he is interested but busy, right? So Rajesh is a doctor by profession and divides his day between his clinic and the hospital in which he works. He also sometimes attends to his neighbors in the event of an emergency. He gets to know about many events in Platinum City through posters and from his wife. He really wishes to attend some of these events. However, due to the tight schedule and appointments, he doesn't find the time to attend. He came to know his neighbors through helping them out at times of need. he would like to extend his expertise to other residents also. So he is interested. He's interested in connecting with the neighbors, interested in being socially engaged, but he doesn't have the time. Right? This person was interested and has the time. Let's look at this third person. She is least interested. Right? So what does this say? She's a very busy woman and loves to spend her leisure time with her family and friends from work. She has her own circle of friends and prefers to spend her weekends with them. Therefore, she's not interested in socializing here. She finds no mode or platform to know her neighbors and hence is least interested in the activities of the society. So through these three personas, you have seen that there are three strong behavior-based types of users that we need to think about in the design of this service. Now, as I told you yesterday, as we spoke about, if we think about a TV user, you might say, who's not a TV user? Everybody is a TV user. But what happens, just like I explained to you in the government example, where the internal organization gets reflected outside if we are not aware of users, aware of bringing people into our design process. Similarly, this is what happened. So this is from several years ago, but this is what the television controls looked like. And it was very confusing for people. What does input mean? What does tuning mean? What does ppref mean? And things like that, right? And the remote was also a very intimidating looking object. So while a product like this, a television, we might feel that, oh, it's a television. I use television every day. I watch television every day. So I'm a user. I know all about it. That's not true. You need to think and delve into the needs and problems of people who are not interested in the technology and the technical mumbo jumbo behind it, right? So what I wanted to point out to you over here is through this analysis, a very different kind of persona approach was taken over this, which is done graphically. So there are various ways to represent your persona. So this was the representation of the person who this product had been designed for, right? This, you can see, he's a very, like a geek, very interested in technology, loves to tinker with different things. He's enjoying reading all these user manuals, got all these cables and everything around. How do I connect this with that? How do I do that with that, right? That is the person for whom this product had been designed. But who is the person that we really need to look at? This is the persona of that person. And we called him the couch potato, right? This person wants to do nothing. Just let me sit back and watch TV. I don't want to think, right? And I want to extend this to you further by saying that this was carried forward into the design with very simple controls, okay? With very simple controls that allowed the person to just do couple of things: previous, next, up and down, right? Remember Steve Krug's book that said, don't make me think. If you can take this approach in your designs, you will do very well, okay? So this is another way of representing a persona. But in a picture, it's captured the same thing. And we know from what we covered yesterday from research that TV users like to lean back rather than sit forward, and they don't want to be actively engaged, okay? Here are some personas that were created in the design of a phone for the elderly. And, while they didn't give specific names to the personas as a person, but what I wanted you to take away from this is, these top of mind statements, right? So this person who is a working person, he's a senior citizen, but he's a working person, he's saying updates of children should come like news to me. And this is possible that this is a verbatim comment from the user. What is this homemaker saying? That, she has a lot of dependency, and she says, she's kind of homebound, and she says, I want my phone to make me more accessible. Okay, make it very easy for people to reach me to reach people, right? What is this one saying? a person living in an old age home. She is saying, I believe my phone has to care for me and I should not have to care for it. I shouldn't have to manage my phone. That should look after me. Okay? What is this retired person saying? You know, he's saying, all I want to do is call that right child of mine. Okay? So he's got 3 children. He wants to make sure he doesn't call the wrong child at the wrong time. So, even if you don't read the rest of it, if you read just these 4 sentences, I think you've gotten in your head a very clear picture of who these people are that we're trying to design for. This is another example of the service came to be called Tourist Story, which is a one-stop audiovisual tour guide. So in historic sites, you know, some kind of an audiovisual guide that gives you information. Now, this is an excellent way to name a persona, right? Researcher Ram, like the stingy Sapna, right? What is he saying? I do enjoy traveling and ensure that I do my complete homework before visiting any place. History, it's my favorite. Okay, now let's read a little bit about it. Ram likes visiting historical places. He does a lot of research about the place. He plans his trips accordingly and has a packed itinerary. He hires guides if he feels that they are authentic. He also enjoys hiring audio guides and considers them a good source of information. Okay, so this is a really well done persona. Let's look at this one. This is Tourist Tarun. What is he saying? I love taking family vacations. Kids have a good time. They learn a little bit about history. Guides, can't do without them, can't do with them, can't do without them, right? So Tarun, he takes holidays, not Kaustubh, takes holidays during his children's vacations. These vacations usually comprise of popular tourist destinations, right? He relies on tour packages and guided tours. He wishes for his children to learn the historic significance of the place. He does hire guides often, but worries about their authenticity and language issues. So that's your user type number 2. Now let's look at Casual Kavita. What is she saying? Historical places are so out. I only like shopping and cultural events. And of course, taking pictures on Facebook. So Kavita seldom visits places of historic significance. She loves shopping and likes to take a lot of pictures. She regularly uses her smartphone to update her status on Facebook. She uses her smartphone all the time. Okay? Important point, even though you might just dismiss her and say, oh, she is not part of our ecosystem at all. And now let's look at Informative Irfan. Informative Irfan, he says storytelling is my job and passion. I read all night and educate people about the Ajanta caves, but it is tiring. Irfan works at Aurangabad Tourism Department office as a tour guide. He tries providing the information in different interesting ways. He, however, does get exhausted by the end of the day and tends to skip certain important information about the sites. Okay, so that is the 4 personas we talked about, and I'm sure by now you have a very strong sense of who those 4 people are and what are their different needs. This is from an example where we were trying to design something that allows young children to have better clarity on the career they might want to choose. Okay, and I don't have the entire persona over here. I have not put it, but what I wanted you to understand is the naming and how clearly the naming can inform you about what that persona is about. This is Defined Path Damodar Yadav. Defined path, he's very clear about what he wants, right? Multi-field interested Manoj Kumar. He's interested in lots of different fields. So he's not really sure what he would like to do. Uninterested Umesh Kishore. He's generally not really bothered. It's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Who cares? Now, this is a father, right? He says, my son knows it all. My son is the expert. He knows what career to choose. And look at this Dipansh Mishra. He is saying what? It's called Defined Career Dipansh Mishra. He basically thinks that his son or daughter needs to do so and so career. I have defined it for them. That's what is right for them. So you can see that there are these 5 very different approaches all towards the same design. Okay? Now, why do we create personas? We create personas so it helps us to not lose track of the real people that we're designing for. It's very easy to lose track and then to start designing for ourselves, assuming that we're the user. It saves time, prevents endless and repetitive discussions on user needs and expected behaviors. So what happens in a team once you create these personas and you put them up and you say, these are the 4 types of people we're talking about, oftentimes you'll find in teams they say, oh, but Sapna would not like this, or Pradeep would not do that. Okay, so that makes it very easy in a team to all get aligned on the same page. Avoid traps of designing for ourselves, of course, and helps in prioritizing features, keeping in mind precise expectations of users. So we understand what their needs are and therefore what their priorities would be on the product. So personas essentially brings people to life and brings them into the design activity. They're a very, very powerful tool. Let's now look at scenarios that go hand in hand with personas. What does a scenario do? A scenario articulates the background and setting around the usage of the product service that we're creating. So you have the person, now we're going to speak about the setting. Okay, that is what a scenario does. Scenarios complement personas. So let's look at an example. Okay, so let's say we have for that corporation website, we have this person called Sunil Khedkar who is an office clerk, right? We have some details about him. He actively participates in community services, involved with underprivileged and needy citizens. He's familiar with computers but internet abilities are low. He can access internet from the office. Now let's look at what the scenario is. Sunil had a discussion with his friends in the community forum about the Pune Corporation self-employment scheme implemented in a nearby area. They want to know if they can start a similar plan in their own locality. He decides to access the corporation website to find information about this. So this is telling you his goals, his intents, his motivations, and the scenario around which he is going to use the product. So personas are about who are these people, scenarios are about how do they approach our product or service. Okay. Now, a scenario can be very sketchily, quickly put together. It doesn't have to be very elaborately drawn. This is an example, and through this I would also like to emphasize the point that saying I cannot draw should not be a retractor for you not to design, not to innovate. Design is not the same as art. You're not trying to be an artist over here. Design is not art. So you can see through this representation, very crude drawings, how nicely the whole story is conveyed, right? What is he saying over here? This is related to him having problems with his cell phone reception, right? So you see this guy with an unhappy face and with the cell phone in his hand, he's saying he gets no reception. He's not sure, is it a hardware issue, software issue, is it a network issue? Should he ask his friends? Well, this person is unlikely to ask friends. He's not that kind, right? Should he call support? Should he go to online support? He's much more likely to do this first. So he goes to online support and he types in this no reception in the search bar, and he gets these search results. He gets a whole bunch of information, with try this, try that and everything, and he's again quite confused. So he says, okay, let me call support. He calls support, and what happens, how should he explain the issue? And what does he say? It's a bit like going to the doctor. The doctor, you can see how nicely he's represented the doctor over here, right? The doctor says, what seems to be the problem? And he's saying, I don't know, okay? So it's a kind of a little humorous way, but the point I would like to make is an entire scenario has been represented to you as far as how this user is interacting with this product and what are the problems that they're facing with it. Okay? So 4 ways in which personas and scenarios result in great design. What do they do? First, they bring assumptions into the open, everybody's assumptions. Like I told you, if I say the word knife in a room full of people, there would be 10 of you who would have a different notion of knife in your head, right? So we all have different assumptions in our head, and design is always a team activity, right? Or rather, bringing a product out into the world is always a team activity. So the different members of the team have different assumptions. Instead of that, now all our assumptions are out in the open, they're all laid out on the table, and we all have a common understanding of it. Ensure you're designing what your audience needs and wants. Okay, you have defined very, very clearly now, articulated from all those things that you heard in the field or heard in your interviews, you've articulated it on a single piece of paper. And you're very clear about their needs and wants. Design for what is critical and important, not the exception. Understand what is the most important issues, what is the priority, okay? And communicate clearly. It helps us to communicate very clearly who is the person and what is their context, okay? So this was a persona that was created for something that we were doing for artists, craftspeople actually. Craftspeople trying to create a very basic technology platform through which they could perhaps sell their products. So Abhirati and her family has been traditionally involved in making kalamkari art, right? This is her details, she's 10th standard educated. She has been a disciple of this renowned artist. She has a small TV in her home and uses a simple Nokia phone. She wants to pursue her art full time, but financial implications do not allow her to do so. And what is the scenario, right? She has heard about our system Kala, that's the name of the service we were working on, from her friend. She is interested in the idea of such a platform where she can get better exposure of her art, right? There go your motivations, and can directly get her product sold. Another motivation. She's very excited about the forum where she can get suggestions how to sell more. And she came to know about the rights and policies that Indian government has been providing for people like her. Okay, so that is the scenario with that persona. Another persona for the same project, Satish is an Indian government recognized master craftsman. He and his family have been involved in making and conducting workshops about wood carving. He's financially stable, right? But he's looking for more avenues for his products. He uses a Nokia phone, etc., etc. He's a wood carver. Now, what is the scenario along with that persona? He has heard about our system from a local newspaper, okay? You can see the different ways in which people come to know about a service. He is interested in the idea of such a platform where he can get better exposure of his art and can directly get his products sold. He wants better exposure, directly sell his products. Now remember, one important point to remember, the product doesn't even exist now. You have created this scenario of the future so that you can understand better and be able to predict some more about the future. He's also excited about the possibility where he can get wider recognition. Remember, he's a master craftsman. Awards and recognition is very important for him, right? He wants to register in order to preserve his art and make good deals, okay? So you can see how the persona and scenario work together. You remember the tourist story, right? The person called Ram who is wanting to expose his children to history and get them more oriented towards our history and culture and everything. So he decides to take his family to Mysore. See how this scenario is represented in a very different way, right? So he's thinking of a tour package, right? That's his thought bubble. His wife and kids are very excited. They're all excited about this family vacation. The first stop they go to is Chamundi temple. And then they hire a guide. And this guide is talking about Chamundi temple built in blah, 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 blah. Very boring, right? He speaks too fast, his accent cannot be understood. The first board is in Kannada, the second board has been vandalized and it's not even legible properly. What happens? Rama's family is disappointed, okay? They go back very disappointed. So this is a scenario that is showing you what happens as far as the user's pain points are, and therefore where does your product come in. Okay, a scenario can be explained in this kind of detailed way, while of course the more visual you can be, the better it is. This is about a company that is looking to hire new talent, attract new talent. So this is Raman Kumar. He's heard about ABC Private Limited through an ad on his college department notice board yesterday. It says they will come from an informational and recruiting session in 5 weeks' time. Today he just attended his first final year project meeting with his guide and has to finalize his project next week. He thinks he should inquire whether there might be an opportunity to do his project with them, since he's thinking of something in the same area of work as this company is involved in. He feels a bit skeptical about ABC as he's heard it's a small company, and being at the threshold of his career, he looks forward to the thrill of being part of a large, established and reputed organization in his first job. He decides to look up their website to see what kinds of work they're doing and whether they will meet his career objectives. Once you read this scenario, you have a pretty good idea about what this company needs to do, how they need to design so that they solve all the different things that are very important for this person, Raman Kumar. Okay, so that was about personas and scenarios.